Imagine feeling invisible, utterly powerless, as if the world is against you. That's how our story begins, in the echoing, sterile halls of Northwood High. Every morning, the same routine played out for Sarah. She'd walk with her shoulders hunched, her eyes fixed on the worn linoleum floor, a silent prayer escaping her lips that today, just today, she might be spared. But hope, it seemed, wasn't a currency accepted in Northwood. Sarah was a quiet girl, almost painfully so. She wore oversized hoodies that swallowed her small frame, a desperate attempt to disappear, to become just another shadow. Her thick-rimmed glasses often slipped down her nose, and her hair, perpetually a little messy, framed a face that rarely smiled. To the casual observer, she was the epitome of an easy target, meek, unassuming, and seemingly without a voice. And Northwood High had its predators. A trio, led by Brittany, a girl whose perfectly coiffed hair and designer clothes masked a truly venomous spirit. Brittany, with her two equally unpleasant sidekicks, Chad and Ashley, had made Sarah their daily entertainment. It started small, a whispered insult in the hallway, a tripped foot in the cafeteria, a defaced locker. But it escalated, as bullying always does, into something far more insidious. Lunchtime became a gauntlet, classes a constant vigilance against sneers and taunts. Social media, a supposed tool for connection, became another arena for public humiliation, with doctored photos and cruel memes about Sarah circulating relentlessly. The weight of it was suffocating. Every breath felt heavy, every step a struggle. Sarah carried the burden of their cruelty like a physical weight, a backpack filled with stones that grew heavier with each passing day. She ate alone, studied alone, existed alone. The laughter of other students, once a sound of youthful joy, now sounded like a mocking chorus. The world, it seemed, was conspiring against her, and she felt utterly trapped, a fly caught in a spider's web. This isolation, this constant fear, chipped away at her. It wasn't just the physical shoves or the spilled drinks. It was the psychological warfare, the systematic dismantling of her self-worth. She'd spend nights staring at her ceiling, the cruel words replaying in her mind, tears silently tracing paths down her temples. She was a ghost in her own life, a shadow of the person she once was, or perhaps the person she was always meant to be. Take a moment to think. Have you ever felt truly alone, utterly powerless? But what if the quiet girl in the corner held a secret, a power nobody suspected? Every day, Sarah walked through the school gates, a target painted on her back. The air in Northwood High buzzed with the unspoken hierarchy, and Sarah was firmly at the bottom. Brittany seemed to have an innate radar for Sarah's presence, materializing out of nowhere to deliver a fresh dose of misery. Just last week, during a pop quiz in history, Brittany had deliberately accidentally knocked Sarah's textbook off her desk, scattering her notes and earning Sarah a glare from the teacher. Sarah had just bitten her lip, picked up her books, and absorbed the humiliation. In the cafeteria, it was a daily ritual. Sarah would try to find a secluded table, but Brittany and her cronies always found her. One day, Chad, with a smirk, slipped and dumped a tray of spaghetti all over Sarah's new, already oversized hoodie. Laughter erupted. Sarah just stood there, mortified, the tomato sauce dripping onto her worn sneakers, the heat of embarrassment burning her cheeks. She could feel every eye on her, every whisper, every judgmental glance. She wanted to scream, to lash out, but the words were lodged in her throat, choked by fear and shame. This relentless torment wasn't just about emotional pain. It was about the insidious way it began to warp Sarah's perception of herself. She started to believe the cruel words, to see herself as truly worthless, clumsy, and undesirable. Her grades, once respectable, began to slip. Her once vibrant imagination, which she used to escape into vivid daydreams, became clouded with anxiety. She felt like a glass doll, fragile and on the verge of shattering. Her parents, though loving, were often busy, preoccupied with their own demanding schedules. Sarah, ashamed of her predicament, never spoke of the bullying. She'd offer vague answers about school, retreat to her room, and bury herself in books, using stories as a temporary escape from her own, far less pleasant, reality. The silence became her shield, but it also became her cage. She believed that if she just endured it, if she just stayed quiet and invisible, it would eventually pass. Consider how easily appearances can deceive us. We see a quiet, bullied girl, and our minds fill in the blanks, often inaccurately. We assume her silence is weakness, her meekness a sign of surrender. What if the quiet girl, who seemed to crumble under pressure, was actually carefully observing, learning, and planning? What if her silence wasn't a sign of defeat, but a testament to a different kind of strength, one meticulously hidden beneath the surface? The school saw a victim, but the world outside those walls held a truth that would shatter their perceptions. The school hallway echoed with taunts, but Sarah's evenings were filled with the hushed whispers of boardrooms and the weight of a legacy. The contrast was jarring, almost surreal. While Brittany was busy plotting her next cruel joke, Sarah was often on video calls, dressed not in an oversized hoodie, but in a tailored blazer, her glasses now perched confidently on her nose. She wasn't just Sarah, she was Sarah Vance, the sole heiress to the Vance Global Corporation, a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate spanning technology, real estate, and finance. Her parents, Robert and Eleanor Vance, were titans of industry, brilliant and fiercely private. They believed in instilling responsibility and humility in Sarah, which was why she attended a public school, lived in a relatively modest home, by their standards, and was forbidden from revealing her family's true wealth. They wanted her to understand the world, to navigate challenges independently, to value hard work and integrity above all else. They had always told her, "Your greatest strength isn't what you own, but who you are." So, while her peers were discussing weekend plans, Sarah was learning about market fluctuations, negotiating complex contracts, and analyzing quarterly reports. She had a team of tutors, not for academics, but for global economics, legal frameworks, and strategic investments. She spoke 3 languages fluently, had traveled to remote corners of the world, and possessed a mind that could dissect intricate problems with alarming precision. Her quiet demeanor at school wasn't shyness. It was a practiced art of observation, a skill honed in rooms where a single misstep could cost millions. The dichotomy was a heavy burden. Imagine a life where you control empires by night, but are powerless against a sneer in the morning. It's a disconnect that would break most people, but for Sarah, it was a crucible. She understood that her family's legacy wasn't just about money. It was about influence, about power, and about responsibility. The bullying, while painful, became a strange kind of lesson. It showed her the raw, unrefined ugliness of human nature, a stark contrast to the calculated, often disguised, power play she witnessed in the corporate world. She couldn't tell anyone, not her few, distant acquaintances at school, certainly not the bullies. The secret was paramount, a cornerstone of her family's privacy and security. But keeping it bottled up, enduring the humiliation when she held so much power, was an emotional tightrope walk. There were moments of profound frustration where she wanted to reveal everything, to watch Brittany's smug face crumple in shock. But the Vances didn't operate on petty revenge. They operated on strategy, on leverage, on long-term vision. Reflect on the hidden battles people fight every day. We often see only the surface, never truly knowing the depths of a person's life or the silent burdens they carry. The quiet girl who seemed to shrink from confrontation was about to show everyone what true power looked like. There comes a point when enough is enough. For Sarah, that moment wasn't about revenge, but about reclaiming her space, her dignity, and subtly, powerfully shifting the narrative. It happened on a particularly brutal Tuesday. Brittany, emboldened by Sarah's continued silence, decided to escalate. She hacked into the school's internal system and, during the morning announcements, projected a doctored, humiliating image of Sarah onto the large screen in the assembly hall, complete with cruel captions. The laughter was deafening. Sarah felt her face flush, the blood draining from her extremities. This was public, undeniable, and broadcast to the entire student body. For a fleeting second, the familiar paralysis set in. But then, something shifted. A cold, clear resolve solidified within her. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was an act of malice that had crossed a line, violating her privacy and dignity on a grand scale. This wasn't a playground squabble. This was a calculated attack. That evening, Sarah didn't cry. Instead, she went to her home office, a sleek room filled with monitors and sophisticated equipment. She didn't call her parents for help, not directly. Instead, she reached out to her family's head of cybersecurity, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Anya. Sarah explained the situation calmly, methodically, detailing the breach and the perpetrator. Anya, who had known Sarah since she was a child and understood the family's code of quiet strength, listened intently. Within hours, Anya's team, acting under Sarah's subtle directives, began their work. They traced the hack to Brittany's personal laptop and, without leaving a trace, gathered irrefutable evidence. But Sarah didn't want Brittany expelled or publicly shamed by the family's legal might. That would be too direct, too simple, and would reveal her hand. Instead, Sarah initiated a series of anonymous, precise actions. First, a meticulously crafted, anonymous email was sent to the Northwood High principal, attaching the irrefutable evidence of Brittany's system hack, but framing it as a serious security vulnerability that needed immediate attention. The email subtly implied that the school's network was dangerously exposed. The principal, panicked by the potential for a massive data breach and negative publicity, launched an immediate, internal investigation, completely unaware of Sarah's involvement. Brittany, under intense scrutiny and with her laptop confiscated, was swiftly identified as the culprit. Simultaneously, a series of discreet, untraceable transfers began. Small, anonymous donations, just enough to be noticeable, started appearing in the accounts of several struggling local charities that Brittany's parents, prominent figures in the community, publicly supported. With each donation came an anonymous note, commending the charities for their work and subtly hinting at community spirit and setting an example. Brittany's parents, eager to maintain their public image and baffled by the sudden influx of anonymous goodwill, found themselves in a bind. Their daughter was in trouble, facing suspension and potential legal consequences for the hacking, while simultaneously, their public image was getting an unexpected, anonymous boost tied to community contribution. The moment Sarah stopped being a bystander in her own life, the entire dynamic shifted. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic in the way you might expect, but it was profoundly effective. It was the quiet click of a lock, sealing off the past and opening a door to her future. Brittany, caught in a web of her own making, faced serious disciplinary action from the school, including suspension and mandatory counseling. Her parents, desperate to avoid further scandal, pressured her to issue a public apology to Sarah, which was delivered with a forced but noticeable humility during a student assembly. The apology wasn't just for Sarah. It was an acknowledgement of her own misdeeds, a rare moment of public accountability in the often unjust world of high school. The bullying stopped, not just from Brittany, but from others who now saw the quiet girl in a new, unspoken light. Not as a victim, but as someone untouchable, someone with an unseen power. What does true strength mean to you? Is it loud, or can it be profoundly subtle? Sarah's story isn't just about fighting back. It's a powerful reminder that our greatest strengths often lie hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The echoes of that school bell fade, but the lessons Sarah learned and taught resonate far beyond the playground. The incident at Northwood High wasn't the end of Sarah's journey. It was a turning point. It wasn't just about stopping the bullying. It was about the profound realization of her own agency, her own quiet power. She didn't become a different person, loud or boastful. Instead, she became more authentically herself, more confident in her quiet strength. The experience taught her that true power isn't about dominance or aggression. It's about understanding leverage, about strategic thinking, and sometimes about the almost imperceptible ripple effects of carefully chosen actions. It taught her that sometimes the most effective resistance isn't a shout, but a whisper that sets in motion a chain of events you can't even see. She learned that humility wasn't weakness, and silence wasn't consent. Instead, they could be tools for observation, for planning, for a more impactful response. Sarah continued her studies, excelled in her corporate responsibilities, and eventually, after graduating, took her rightful place at the helm of Vance Global. But she never forgot the lessons of Northwood High. She instilled in her company a culture of empathy and ethical conduct, recognizing that even the most formidable power must be wielded with responsibility and a deep understanding of human nature. She became a quiet advocate for anti-bullying initiatives, often donating anonymously to organizations that supported vulnerable youth, ensuring that other Sarahs had a voice and a fighting chance. Her story isn't about Cinderella finding her prince or a superhero revealing their cape. It's about the quiet magic that happens when you realize the strength you need is already within you. It's about how the perception of weakness can actually be a cloak for immense, untapped potential. It's a testament to the fact that appearances can be deceiving, and that the person you might dismiss as insignificant could be the one holding the most profound power. Sarah's journey invites us to look beyond the surface, to recognize the hidden depths in everyone, and to never underestimate the quiet ones. It's a powerful reminder that kindness isn't weakness, and true strength often doesn't shout. It whispers. It endures. It's the quiet determination to rise, not just against bullies, but against the limiting beliefs we hold about ourselves. If Sarah's journey resonated with you, and you believe in the power of unseen strength, hit that subscribe button and join our community. We've got more stories that will remind you just how powerful you truly are.